Hello, Dr. Dan.
Yes, hello, Bob.
Anyway, last time you were explaining in general the differences between a trance medium and a regular medium. And today we'd like to talk about specifically Wayne Sturgeon's trance channeling in La Crucis, uh, which the topic was about Oahspe and John Newbrough as far as how he handled the whole process post inspiration, post channeling. And I'd like you to talk about that. So please, you
Well,
have the floor.
first of all, I'm going to have to talk a little bit about uh, channeling in general and uh, and what Wayne's abilities were. Uh, I had read in one of the spiritual books a few years back that not everybody can channel, not everybody can be a psychic, that there's only about 1 out of 30,000 people that actually have the ability, psychic ability of any kind. And so we get into that, and there's various types of channeling and psychic work. The the lowest thing is psychics. Psychics are just people that are sensitive to earthbound spirits. And so a lot of times you get nothing but garbage out of those. Then we have clairvoyants. Those are people that can see the spirits but can't talk to them. And then there's clairaudience that can hear spirits but they can't see them.
Right.
So, and then there's another type of out of body experience that some people are capable of that. Uh, and information you get from those is usually a lot higher uh, because
It's more
it
objective.
takes a much more elevated spiritual being uh, to be able to do it.
Uh, I'd
So,
like I'd like to just make one comment about that. And
okay,
I know you're talking about percentages and how many people have the abilities, and it's very rare, of course. But I think you'd also automatically agree that we can, as individuals, develop these capabilities, some more easily than others. But what you just talked about, the higher spirituality, um, that kind of goes along with developing the abilities to some degree. Am I, is that a good point?
no, the thing is that it's genetically involved. And so you either have the genes or you don't have them. Now, you can become more sensitive if you apply yourself and maybe become a real strict vegetarian or something like that. Uh, but by and large, the average person cannot become another Wayne.
Oh, right. Well, trans medium, I'm totally going to agree with you on. I was just pointing out about the other types of mediumship that you could develop it. I really think you could develop to an amazing ability, but yeah, Wayne's a different case. That's genetic, or it's inherited, or whatever you want to say. There's some
Right.
spiritual. Okay, I agree with you on that.
And even like in Wayne's case, I can't remember how many children he had. I think he had three.
Yes, we hear about the children or the descendants of psychics also having uh, that kind of trance mediumship abilities.
Well, none of his children had it. And but anyway, what I'm leading up to, or the point I'm trying to make, is that in my experience with Wayne, he had both an auto writing capability, he had a trance medium capability, and he had an out-of-body capability. But in my opinion, and I would never told him this because I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but as a psychic, he wasn't very good. He gave both me and my wife psychic readings, and virtually nothing came true. You see, but and Wayne had the ability of being a trance medium, or just a regular medium.
Not so hot.
They can't give the level of information. They're more or less like a high-class psychic, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
But being a trance medium is where the spiritual beings take over someone's body and speaks, or is able to connect to their thought process somehow, and then give messages through that, much like we would talk on a cell phone.
Can you see the picture of Wayne now?
No.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. I was trying to put it on the screen. Okay, continue.
Oh.
Okay. Now do you see him? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just play like 10 seconds? Wayne, right now, Wayne is in a trance. And I just want, here we go.
Opening and without pain, I will be aware of Wayne. We are many, but we are many with one voice. I will be able to answer some of your question.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to give the audience a little idea of Wayne in action.
Yes. And with the trance medium, it sometimes took as much as 10 minutes for him to get into a trance. Another time, maybe 2 minutes. And in his particular case, the person speaking through Wayne informed us that there were upwards of 10,000 spiritual beings involved in this transmission through Wayne.
That's a lot.
And so to give the transmission through Wayne, they have to use a very low level spirit. That is, one that is recently passed, and they still have a lot of the earth characteristics to them.
So there'll be a better connection.
Yes, but the higher raised spirits are not able to just directly speak through Wayne. So in listening to any kind of channeled information, one has to take this in consideration, because the message may pass through several levels before it gets through Wayne.
So there's a spectrum of levels that is along this whole chain of channeling, from the highest to the lower.
Correct. Yeah. So a person still has to be a little bit cautious and don't necessarily take something for absolute fact when it may be somewhat changed from the original message, you see. And so Wayne said that to him, the most accurate means was when he would have an out-of-body experience, and then he was able to see the spirit realm and to travel around in it. And he said that, and he could not call up an out-of-body experience. It just came to him that he needed to get ready for one to happen.
Excuse me, Dr. Dan, did these out-of-body experiences take place during the trance channeling, or did it happen just maybe when he took a nap or something?
No, he would get a feeling that he was going to have an out of body experience. So he would lie down and just kind of open his mind. It wasn't the same thing as a trance medium session. See, and he said that he only got those messages or he only had out of body experiences when there was a significant message to be relayed. And then he would get that feeling to that it was going to happen.
Go ahead.
The one of them that he had was, for example, that he was describing it to me, that he went over he flew over the Middle East area of the world, and he was able to look down and he saw that there were chemical warfares. The people were being gassed. And this was before it actually happened in Syria, when Russia gave the chemical weapons to Syria and they gassed their people. You see, and then the being went on to explain that America was very concerned about Russia and China, and we didn't need to be. That our problems were not going to come from China or Russia. Our problems were going to come from the southern border. So here we have this now with these migrants that are putting a strain on our society. And there's a lot of people that are coming in as migrants who are members of the drug cartels and MS3 gang members, and communist people
child
from
trafficking.
Russia.
A lot of child trafficking going around right now. Yeah, it's a kind of political. This has got a political bent to it, and that's not necessarily what we want to focus on. But there is a spiritual reality that's bad. Even though we call it politics, there are people who are really suffering. The immigrants who come over, many of them die on the way, or they're harmed in many ways by the cartel. And when they get them, and then when the children get here, they're abused by people who are either with the government or just individually bad people. So anyway, the message was a warning to us to try to stop people from being harmed, basically.
Unless you're using this picture of Wayne, could we delete that so I can get
Oh, yeah.
Because that's about all I see on my computer.
Sure. Let me get to some other picture. Bye, Wayne. And
well, what I understand what you're saying, and I was leading up to a point, and that point is that one of the other out-of-body experiences that Wayne had was in Las Cruces, New Mexico in 2002, and he was taken on a tour wherein he saw Dr. Newbrough in this structure, a tall kind of silo thing that was all white inside, and he was over the top of it. The top was open, and he was able to look down inside and see Dr. Newbrough. And he got the message there from about Newbrough and what the problem was.
And this is a viewpoint in the spiritual world
yes.
somewhere.
Yes. and Newbrough was being confined for various reasons, but mostly because of his efforts to alter the Oahspe to his likings and to add some of his own ideas and beliefs in there. And so a lot of these people had been seriously misled.
That's true.
And then we had Newbrough come through again in one of the trance sessions, Newbrough himself.
Can I interject just a moment?
Yes.
Of course, I've read Oahspe for many decades, but I was always confused about something, and that is I met a lot of good people who were strong advocates for the book Oahspe, but I also met a lot of people who were not so great. And I was wondering, well, if Oahspe really helping people? And if it isn't helping people, why is it? Why are some people seem to be getting worse as a person after reading it? And now that with this transmission channeling by Wayne, I can understand that the parts in Oahspe which are negative, which harm people, which make them go into a cult kind of path, that's because Newbrough put some things which are not true and which are not good for people in Oahspe. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right on that. And there was the remark in one of the trance sessions, a recorded session, that let me get this straight now.
And by the way, on the screen, there is a YouTube video, and you can get the document itself if you ever want to. I'll put links in the description, but these are the channelings of some of the channels of Wayne, but particularly on the ones which are connected with Oahspe's poisoning by some of the Masonic ideas that Newbrough still clung to even after doing the original channeling of Oahspe. Over.
Yes. The thing that I'm also curious about is that we were informed in one of the channeling sessions that it wasn't all the change by Newbrough, that there were the Masonic people were interfering, and for a while there, the Masons thought the Masons were looking for a Bible so that they could make their own religion. And they thought they could use Newbrough, so they interfered with a lot of it.
Mm.
And then the puzzling thing is that they said there were also some off-planet entities that were putting things into the Oahspe that were from their planet. And that's why some of the things within the Oahspe seem so strange. So the whole problem that comes down...
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I would like to interject in case people don't know the history of the book, that in 1881 it was channeled, and in 1882 Newbrough started to get it published the way he received it through a publisher named John Lant, but after a short period of time he canceled the publishing, and he said it was because he wanted to improve Oahspe because he thought he was getting new inspiration. So he basically, instead of getting inspiration from leaving it as it was from the higher heavens, since he was a medium, he took more directives from Masonic spirits and perhaps, as you say, other spirits from lower realms, from other worlds. And so some stuff that wasn't so good for people, which led them to cultism and to make Oahspe a religion itself, got jammed into there in a bad way. Over.
Yes. People have an innate, but an inborn desire to believe. And so they want to believe that something is right or something is true when it actually isn't. And that's why in another channel session, they said it's extremely important that the people of the world understand one of the big mistakes that mankind makes is that mankind has the ability, and womankind, we have the ability to think either from our heart or from our brain. And they said the really dangerous thing is to think from your heart, because your heart can lie to you. And all you have to do is remember back in high school when you had that girl that was so in love with you and it didn't work out, you know. And they say, but thinking from your brain is where you can make the connection to the Creator. So the advice is that what we need to do is to stop forcing ourselves on other people, stop thinking that we're completely right. And when we have a question about something, we should go off and meditate about that.
Great
now,
point.
Meditation is basically just thinking. You don't have to burn incense and get in a certain position and carry a crystal rock in your pocket. That's not it. It's just a matter of thinking about it. And you may have to think about it for maybe many years before you really understand it.
Right. And you basically, Oahspe teaches us, and we knew it, many mystics or highly spiritual people would advise us to go to the Creator directly, not necessarily through a book. And Oahspe itself warns us of this, but go within and seek the Creator's light and voice, and you'll be far better off in the long run. And I'd like to add one more quick thing. You see the picture on the screen. This is a painting or a drawing that Newbrough made after the channeling was done of Oahspe, after he revised it with Masonic ideas, and after Shalom, his community that he started. You'll see it looks very negative. It's very scary. It's very cultish. And this is like totally against the principles of what Oahspe espouses. So I'm just trying to show that here's Newbrough's thinking, and it's not going in the right direction is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah, that is kind of spooky looking.
It is.
Yeah, I don't.
Very cultish.
Yeah. And these are the kind of things we have to get away from.
Yes.
And that's why I had mentioned to you that I finally realized that religion was the problem. And religion does these kind of things to our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And just yesterday, they had this head of the Taliban, I think it was the Taliban, said that killing Americans is in direct alignment with Sharia law.
Okay, that's an example of religions teaching things which are not very good, which are evil.
Yes, that's right. See, and so they tell people these kind of things, and people think they can do it. And so, yeah, the trick to understanding life is to think about these things that you disagree with. If someone, let's say right now, there's a lot of hatred going on towards President Trump. Well, if people were to sit back and not criticize him and say, I wonder why he said that.
Mm-hmm.
What is he up to? Or what does he have in mind? things would be a lot better. We wouldn't be having so many problems. And he needs to do the same thing too. That's
Right.
a big mistake that he makes.
Right. I agree completely. There was a time when I thought he was like the greatest leader of all, but the more I looked at it, I find that he's made mistakes, such as about the vaccinations, and he's made some deals which have benefited rich companies. Now, at the same time, I'm going to say the people in power, our government right now, are far worse than he ever was, and probably will destroy this nation. But he certainly needs to look at himself, and
Well, yeah, like he.
I do too. I mean, it's not like we all do. We all need to do that.
Yes. Oh,
In a
absolutely.
non-political way.
And yeah, I'm going to tell you something in a minute about what an old Indian said, but let me finish on Trump. For example, on Trump, even after Senator John McCain died, Trump had a big conflict with Senator McCain. And so McCain is now dead, and Trump is continuing on to criticize him. There was no value in doing that, and that just made him look bad. There are a lot of people that like Senator McCain, and then coming along after he's dead and talking about he wasn't any hero, he was a fraud. Mm-hmm. There was no point in it. It served no purpose. Now then, let me go back to my Indian thing. This Indian was asked this fundamental question about where is the Great Spirit, and how can I talk to the Great Spirit? And the Indian said, this is something that you will have to work on yourself. You will have to go into meditation and think about this for many, many, many years. Maybe eventually you'll understand a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I think that's basically what Oahspe and other good spiritual paths advocate, is turn within, find the highest that you can discover as for what your next decision would be, and then carry it out, and give yourself time to develop and grow. Be patient with others, and day by day work on removing negativity from your life and increase the amount of positive things, the amount of love you can share with the world.
Right. Yeah. And everybody is supposed to, or everybody will have variations in these kind of beliefs. So no one is completely right, no one's completely wrong, and people see things a little differently from their upbringing and their way of life and their genetics, and that's not to be condemned. It's okay for them. And then when they feel in return that what I do is okay for me, mm-hmm. then we're going to get along.
Oh, absolutely. So Oahspe really is not necessarily saying anything especially original as far as the spiritual path, where love one another as yourself, love the Creator with all your heart, mind, and soul. But it is saying that everything we do has an effect on ourselves. If you do something good, it's positive. If you do something bad, it's negative. And you're in charge. So you're in charge of your own salvation. Over.
Yes. And one other message we got is that the Oahspe is the last of the written Bibles. And in other words, we're not going to, as far as future spiritual understanding is concerned, people will work that out themselves. Now, they can go and talk to other people that are ahead of them. They can ask for advice. but they still got to work their understanding out in their own mind. And so, yeah, the Oahspe is the last of the written Bibles.
Right. And I think we would both agree, and Oahspe would back us up, that you can be a very great person and never read Oahspe, and the Creator is working through everyone, no matter what your spiritual path, and that there are plenty of very great people who are perhaps um, in the Islamic path or on a Christianity path or an atheist path. But the question is, how well are they harmonizing their life with the highest good they can contemplate, that they are willing to commit themselves to helping the people in their lives and the people in the world. Over.
Yes, absolutely. You're right on that. So, yeah. and actually, all of this is very, very simple. In fact, it's probably why it isn't more widely accepted is because people expect to have something complicated, a book, a Bible, and ceremonies and rituals and all kinds of beliefs, and but all that was put in there by man to gain control over the people. And 2,000 years ago, that was okay because the people were uneducated. They couldn't read or write. But here they had the church that was telling them, oh, here's what's going to happen. And they'd say, oh, that's great. Okay, so they became members of the church and lost control of their mind. They didn't know how to think for themselves. They would want someone to think for them.
Right. And as time went on, more people learned to think for themselves, to seek their own spiritual path. And but there was good achieved through religions to a degree. And there's also a lot of bad things that happened through religions. But it's a continuum where more and more it became counterproductive to follow a path that is purely religious, and rather you're better off following a spiritual path of your own making, one with the Creator, the great spirit of the universe. Over.
Yes. And even in the trance session, one of them that we had, it was said that although those were false religions and they were misleading the people, they were good for that time because they did take the animal or reduce the animal in humankind, and the people would behave themselves because they had this idea, well, if they were good, they would go to heaven. And if they were bad, they were going to go to hell.